Hello, this is Christina Cadil with Radiant Astrology, and this is your new moon in Aquarius Starcast. Now, the new moon will be exact on Monday, February 4th at 1:03 p.m. Pacific and 3:03 p.m. Eastern Time at 15 degrees Aquarius. And any new moon is the beginning of a new cycle of growth that we'll see over the next 6 months. So the intentions that we set at the new moon, especially those around Aquarian themes, can have an opportunity to germinate and manifest with a flowering at the Aquarian full moon in 6 months' time. And so some of the themes of Aquarius are being original, innovative, doing things differently, and experimenting. It's like being an inventor in some area of your life. You can also consider upgrading and up-leveling your skills or your technology. It also deals with friends and networks. So are your friends and communities and networks, are they forward-thinking enough? Are they meeting you where you're at in your current evolution? It's also our activism, where we put our time and energy to make the world a better place. And so you'll want to see where 15 degrees Aquarius falls in your chart. What house is that? That will show you the area of life that's being affected now for this new moon. And so when we set intentions, we are aligning with co-creating with the universe, right? So it's very important that we're conscious of what it is we want to intend for this new moon. Now, we just had the sun joining Mercury in Aquarius. And so this is about the mind, bringing the lower mind and the higher mind into alignment and aligning with our purpose, which is the sun. So it can be a time of brilliant ideas, brilliant insights. Again, and that's what leads to innovation. And I recently read a beautiful quote from Nicola Tesla, who was the ultimate innovator. And I want to read this to you. He said, "With ideas, it is like with dizzy heights you climb. At first, they cause you discomfort and you are anxious to get down, distrustful of your own powers. But soon the remoteness of the turmoil of life and the inspiring influence of the altitude calm your blood. Your steps get firm and sure, and you begin to look for dizzier heights." Right? So we may feel a little unsure of ourselves when we're moving into a new space, when we're innovating. This is the area where we are seeking liberation and doing things our own way. And that can sometimes feel uncomfortable. But when you're feeling that, then just know that you're on the right path if you have a sense of expansion and freedom. So Uranus rules the new moon, and it's at the final degrees of Aries. And so this suggests some urgency, some real need for a breakthrough. Uranus is the planet of the higher mind, of liberation, of rebellion, and also of collective awakening, right? So it is the collective. So we could see some collective themes coming up now. We also want to keep in mind that the South Node has been transiting Aquarius from May 2017 until November 2018. And so that was 18 months of this release of karma in this area of your chart, in this part of the zodiac. And so it created a lot of paradigm shifts in this area. Releasing limiting beliefs, releasing old patterns. I've seen many people say the more that they grow in their evolution and their spirituality, sometimes they lose friends and they can feel very alienated and alone. And that is sort of a natural shift. That's a natural evolution that needs to happen when we are growing. We don't always align with the people from our past and their beliefs. And so that means maybe upgrading your networks, upgrading your communities so that you're more in alignment with like-minded souls. And so this is really the fertile soil that's been happening in this area of your chart with the South Node having transited there. Now it's moved on to Capricorn. And so Capricorn is dealing with the South Node karma. But now with Aquarius, we can begin to start germinating some new patterns. And so with Uranus, we want to really look at this sense of rebellion and awakening, because we also have Mars squaring Pluto, which is exact February 1st. But this can be a very intense aspect. And Mars is also in Aries, where Uranus is, right? And so Aries is the ultimate fire of the fire signs. And Mars rules Aries. So it's in its rulership. Mars is strong. Mars is our instinct and our drive. And as he runs up to a square with Pluto, he's triggering the Pluto subconscious drives. And so the subconscious drives of Pluto are those things that are buried, that we keep hidden from our consciousness because maybe they're not acceptable. But when they're unleashed, they can often possess us. We can feel possessed by rage or by a destructive impulse. I mean, that's one way. These power struggles can come up, especially because Pluto is in Capricorn, which is about authority and power. And it can lead to an all-out war. Or on the positive side, we can use this energy to really give us some intensely focused drive with our creative projects. Maybe things might not be going quite as quickly or as fast as we want, but this Mars Pluto, if we use it creatively, we can just push through a lot of the frustration to do something that's really empowering for ourselves. And again, we have this echo of up-leveling and upgrading in some ways in our lives. So any square is creative energy, ultimately. It's asking for us to find creativity through the frustration. And so, again, when Pluto is involved, it's really important we bring our consciousness to any kind of frustrating energy, any kind of power struggles. And we want to ask ourselves, what's really at stake? What's worth me fighting for? Or what is worth actually surrendering so that I can then focus on that which is really significant to my life, to my evolution, and to my own empowerment. And so the other thing is Pluto is currently on its own South Node. And this really indicates that karmic lessons from the deep past are coming up now for our collective awareness. Now, the last time Pluto was on its own North Node was during the 1930s. And that was also a time, a very intense time that we kind of see similar to now. That was a time of the Nazis rising in Europe. And we're seeing a similar collective shadow arising now with things like racism, xenophobia, and extremism in a way that's sort of like an echo of the past. And so when we can sense this collective shadow arising, we can really think deeply about, why is this happening? Like, what is the need for the collective to experience these dark forces that are actually stirred within each of us? Now, the 1930s was also a time when depth psychology was pioneered by Freud and Jung. And it was arising in the collective consciousness in Europe and America. And so Freud and Jung were actually looking at what was happening in the world, and they wanted to understand the sense of shadow and of subconscious, and how the collective allows such abuses of power and actually even fuels it. And so these ideas of subconscious, of dream work and active imagination that Jung had pioneered are now really coming back into awareness as healing practices, as practices that are deeply healing to the soul. Psychology actually comes from the root words of healing the soul. But then modern psychology seemed to really distance itself from that initial purpose. But now we're kind of coming back to it. And with evolutionary astrology, that is our main purpose: how to heal the soul. Healing at a soul level, healing our wounds that are timeless, and that feel really ancient. So now is the time to be illuminating the shadow material, and when we feel triggered or when we feel like we need to react, it's really important for us to come back to, are we truly standing in our dignity and our sovereignty? And so it's a really good time to be looking from an Aquarian objective way. What is this craving for power or dominance or ego validation within me? And how important really is it for my life? How can I use this intense energy for my own creativity? Am I creating with it, or am I turning to the destructive? And so also asking how you can use all of this energy coming up to help evolve the collective, to help better your communities. And we want to think about the concepts of power versus force, right? Because they're not the same thing. To truly have power, you're magnetizing power to you. You're bringing it from deep within. Force is just sort of like a one-way forcefulness, and that doesn't always bring us the power that we seek. I highly recommend David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force, which essentially says that everything comes down to energy and vibration. And so anything, whether it's creative or destructive, we look at the nature of its energy and vibration, and we can see how that manifests in the world. And so we also have Mars conjunct Eris. Eris is the goddess of discordia, the goddess of strife. And this kind of echoes the potential for collective discord, right? For strife and for anarchy. Eris was the goddess who was snubbed from a feast of the gods, and she tossed an apple into the ballroom, which said, "To the fairest." And that actually sparked a vanity-fueled dispute among Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, and eventually led to the Trojan War. So there's some mischievousness here with Eris. So we want to just kind of bring that to consciousness, and also just be conscious that if we feel like we're being mischievous, with such a charged atmosphere, we want to be careful not to start another Trojan War of our own. And now the Sabian symbol for this new moon in Aquarius is a big businessman at his desk. And so what does that evoke? A big businessman at his desk. That evokes power. That evokes organization. And so these sound actually very much like Capricornian themes, with authority and organization and business. And so we want to remember that this is the Aquarius new moon. And so how can we connect our drive to help improve the collective, to upgrade and innovate in our lives, along with these themes of bringing a sense of maturity, a sense of organization, maybe aligning it with business in some way, or the themes around business, and keeping ourselves accountable, for really creating a container for that which we want to grow, and maybe doing so in a practical way. So for your new moon intentions, remember that this is a time of new beginnings. You are not alone. You're part of the fabric of the community, of society and humanity. And our own personal evolution actually impacts the collective. Even if we feel like for this length of the journey, we're all alone. We're actually not. We're evolving so that we may attract others of like mind. And so for this new moon, you'll want to set 3 intentions. Set 1 for up-leveling and upgrading your own life. Another for your community. What can you do to help evolve your community? And 1 more for the world. What does humanity need that you can help to add your intentions and wishes to help create that in the world? So think bigger, think further, and know that you have the power to create a new future. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe to my channel and have your notifications turned on. I'll also be launching my Patreon community very soon, so you'll want to subscribe to my newsletter at radiantastrology.com to get all the details on that. You can also book a reading on my website at radiantastrology.com. And I'll be doing a course on the planets and houses through New Paradigm Astrology. You can get all the details at the link below. We start on February 2nd. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.